This program is brought to you by Zenus, leading the optimum wellness movement in body and spirit with nature.
My whole purpose is to get people off of their drugs and get them to live a healthy life.
It's such a miracle. I mean, this is dollar for dollar. Best stuff I've ever had in my office.
Hey folks, welcome to yet another edition of the Wellness Express on the Airtime American Network. My name is Anthony. Joining me, as always, is my great friend Doug Woodfield, educator and author of a book you must have, Life or Grave Danger. He's also the president and CEO of Zenus Global Health. Remember, the consultation is always free. We're backed by Nature's Pharmacy, and your journey to wellness can be all yours. It just begins with your mindset. Give us a call at 702-540-5668 for questions, comments, and your interest in the best of whole food nutritional supplements. Doug, we are back once again. Another show is upon us. Always great to be with you. How are you today, my friend?
I'm great. Thank you, Anthony, and it's great to be back here with you again, too.
You know, here we are already at our third show. We've really laid out the core principles, our philosophy, introduced you at home to Optimum Detox and why you must eliminate the poisons and toxins that are impacting your wellness already. However, our topics today and our special guest, Dr. Tom Stone, I think will push the envelope even further. But before we get there, I know there's one important detail that you want to address, Doug, about pH balance left over from last week's show. Let's take care of that piece first.
Let me digress for just one moment. We talked a lot about pH balance in the body, and I had indicated on one hand that the body goes through a pH shift daily, where in the daytime the body has to be acidic because in an acidic environment, the function of enzymes is to create energy, and as the body turns to more of an alkaline environment, the function of your enzymes is to restore all the damage that's been done to cells and prepare the body for the next day's events again. And so all healing is done in an alkaline environment. And then I also mentioned that if the pH balance has to remain intact, that it fluctuates, you could die from alkalosis or acidosis. Well, I should have probably clarified that because at a cellular level, the pH will vary at a cellular level, whether it's daytime or nighttime, whether you're trying to create energy or whether you're resting and healing. It's the blood pH that's a total tyrant and demands the exactness in the pH. So it doesn't allow fluctuation. And should it go high or low by a marginal amount, it could cause a tremendous challenge to the system, could even cause death. So it's in the blood. At a cellular level, it's different from the blood pH.
Yes, important we correct ourselves in every case because people do require, I think, the right information. So thanks for clearing that up. But I want to get back to the point about our philosophy here, or the Zenus philosophy, as it were, about these poisons and toxins. We keep hearing about all these new issues with obesity, with the diabetes, with cancer, and yet I don't hear that out in the public domain, just how important removing poisons and toxins really are in conjunction with these conditions, Doug. That is a problem, right?
Oh, no question about it. Of course, one of the favorite sayings that we've talked about in the natural health arena is that life or death begins in the colon. Well, I'd take it a step farther. It actually begins right in the mouth. I had an interesting dentist up in Edmonton. She was the most amazing dentist that I've ever been to. And because the entire time she was working on you, she was educating you on the value of keeping your mouth clean. There's a tremendous accumulation of bacteria and germs enter into the mouth. Now, once they get down to the stomach, a lot of them are deterred by hydrochloric acid that's secreted at the stomach. But in the mouth, one of the things that I've experienced or watched is that so many people that suffer from diabetes, suffer from heart disease, have bad teeth or have had issues, dental issues. I know I've got a whole litany of friends that have had major heart surgery. Some of them have died, and they've all had major dental issues. They didn't look after their teeth. And unfortunately, sometimes dental costs can get very, very expensive. And so, they just put it off and suffered a lot of pain in that. But the worst part of it was the damage that it did. All these poisons in that getting into the system caused to other parts of the body, ended up in these, major degenerative and chronic conditions.
Another issue that I've really picked up on in the last month, and we've always known this has been linked, Doug, but it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. It's now stated by the CDC that obesity in Americans has reached a record high, that nearly 40% of adults and almost 20% of adolescents are obese. In total, about 70% of Americans are either obese or overweight, and there are clear links, obviously, to diabetes, but even more so cancer. This is an emerging trend that I do think we need to discuss a bit because, again, it's all about the diet, Doug. There's a reason why we're so obese to begin with.
Here's an interesting thing. There's people who say, well, you got to get out and move. You got to be exercising. You got to be to the gym. Certainly everybody should be up exercising because that works in your lymphatics and keeps the body fluids, and your lymphatic system, which is part of your body's purification system, purifies, all the blood in the body, a filtration system for the blood. But so much of it is built up in the gut where you get an abundance of accumulated waste and toxins built up in the gut. And the body's response to that is its wisdom wants to protect the vital organs from those poisons. So in order to prevent them from getting into the bloodstream where they can be carried to different parts of the body turns around and coats the gut wall to prevent the absorption of these toxins and poisons. As a result of that, the body will prevent the poisons being absorbed or, getting through into the blood, but it also prevents nutrients. And we end up in this phenomena I refer to as the overfed, undernourished syndrome. Because even though we can change and start eating healthy foods, the body's already set up to prevent things from being absorbed. So they're going to either accumulate as waste or be defecated. They can't get through to the cells where they're needed. So the cells constantly are sending signals to the body, to the brain, saying, I need more, I need more. Well, it's not food that it's looking for, it's nutrition that it's looking for. And so we constantly are eating more, trying to feed this desire for food, which is really a desire for nutrients. And so much of it is just stored as fat in the body, so we just start to put on weight.
One of the more interesting conversations I've had during the course of, say, the past couple of weeks has been with a number of younger people who recognize that, maybe some fasting and some flushing may be in order. And I'm not saying those things are bad or they're good for the body. I'm just curious as to your point of view around fasting and flushing and some of the over-the-counter things that you see out there. Quite frankly, when I read the box, some of it seems like real quackery to me.
Well, it's hard for me to comment on any specific one without knowing what it is because I'm a very chief proponent and advocator of coffee enemas, for example. I believe in organic coffee enemas as a major protocol, especially in later term cancer patients, because it's the fastest and most effective way there is of eliminating toxins, massive amounts from the gut, from the colon. But there's a lot of these detox systems that can be very hard and invasive on the system that tend to do maybe as much or more damage to the body. And again, it's getting rid of the poisons is one thing, but what we've addressed with the Optimum Detox is not just breaking down these accumulated waste into tiny particles that the body can more effectively eliminate, but it's also cleansing using a natural soap that's in the product, what they call saponin, to be able to cleanse the gut wall. So now you put it in a posture so that it can more effectively start to absorb nutrients again, too. So you get rid of the cause and you effectively put the body in a position where it can start utilizing nutrients again that can get to the cells so the cells create the enzymes that can do the healing.
Doug, the thing I'm trying to get to when I use that loaded word, in air quotes, quackery, these plans tend to look at removing that mucus out of the intestinal wall. Like there's some product's going to be a magic bullet, like it's going to be removed overnight. And one of the things I've found with Optimum Detox is naturally that process begins and takes on its own life's course. There are no magic bullets in the arena of detoxing. Detoxing is a process and it's an ongoing process. Like I say, there's nothing that's out there I've noticed that's going to get rid of that overnight.
Well, the Optimum D-tox is a very unique product, and there isn't another product on the marketplace that can even be compared to it because it does a whole facsimile of different things. Number one, it's loaded with what we call phytosterols. These are natural acting plant steroids. They're metabolic in nature, not anabolic, and their function is to motivate the existing friendly aerobic bacteria in the gut, causing them to come forth in greater numbers, creating up to 60,000 times more enzymes. It's these increase in enzymes that can now break down all that accumulated waste into minuscule particles that can be effectively eliminated through defecation. It also has a substance called saponins in it. They are very effective in cleansing the gut wall. They clean out all the mucus that's been built up in the gut wall by the body's immune system in order to prevent the absorption of poisons. This way, it cleans the gut wall so we can start absorbing nutrients again. So the Optimum D-tox works totally with nature. It's not some foreign substance. It's food for the body. It's food for the gut. It comes right from nature's pharmacy. So nothing's been changed, altered, or denatured. It's 100% natural, and it's able to assist the body in eliminating the cause of so many of these degenerative conditions, while at the same time putting up the body in the proper posture so it can now start absorbing nutrients that the cells effectively need in order to create the enzymes to support the body in a healthy lifestyle.
Folks, you're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Network with Doug Whitfield. Give those fine people at Zenus a call at 702-540-5668. Look, Doug, before we go to the break, real quickly here, the rates of obesity cannot be disputed. I think we know that. You know, this overfed, undernourished issue that we have in America and how we prepare our food. I don't think we spend enough time talking about food preparation because, as you have rightly educated me, how we cook our food, how we prepare our food plays a critical role in what we put in our bodies and how our bodies process it.
Understand what obesity is. Obesity is simple sugars primarily that are readily converted by the body into fat, and the fat stored in fat cells. Well, there's nothing more insidious in the way of toxicity than rancid fat. And now you're storing all this fat that turns rancid in the cells of the body. There's no way that you can be obese and be healthy. Health challenges come hand in hand with obesity. Just the very fact that you're carrying all that extra weight puts additional strain on your whole cardiovascular system, your heart. Now you got to pump blood through a much bigger system, and you end up with clogged arteries because of the fats. And again, it has to do with your diet, the foods that you're eating, not cleansing. I mean, we bathe every day cleansing the outside of our body, but most people don't give a second thought to cleansing the gut or the inside of the body where it's really critical. Our favorite saying here in the natural health arena is life or death begins in the colon, because that's where all the waste accumulates. Anything that's not defecated is accumulated, where it rots, it decays, it putrefies, and it's these putrefied toxins that become the precursors to almost all of our degenerative and chronic conditions. You got to get rid of them.
Folks, again, this is the Wellness Express with Doug Whitfield, brought to you by the fine people at Zenus Global Health. Check out the website, please do, zenusglobalhealth.com/information, or again, give them a call at 702-540-5668. The consultation is free. We are backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Don't forget, you got Dr. Tom Stone later in the show. You'll want to hear his story. This is the Wellness Express. Come right back.
The Optimum D-tox is absolutely an incredible product. Right now, the supplemental industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't address the cleansing aspect, the detoxifying aspect of it, most of these products, as good as they are not being used effectively. So in other words, you're just throwing your money away. You're just not getting the benefits, or you're getting certainly not all the benefits that you should be getting.
I would literally want to lie in bed for way past the alarm clock, way past when I should get up and get going. I was tired and I was definitely lethargic and kind of sluggish. My system wasn't running well.
I love to be able to give this to patients and know the various effects that it has on them without the negative side effects that you have with drugs.
When I was retired in 1991, I felt 90 years old. I subsequently reversed all my health problems.
I had acid reflux really, really bad. And within 3 days, I was able to get completely off of all acid reflux pills. And then as an afterthought, about 8 months later, I noticed, I wasn't keeping track of my weight or anything, but I realized that I had lost about 40 pounds. So it's been pretty amazing.
It actually makes me feel a lot better when I get up in the morning. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm not sluggish anymore. It's like I get up and it's like, okay, I'm ready to start my day and get out the door and let's go do things. And whereas before it would take me a good hour to get out of the house. I'd have to wake up 2 hours ahead of time just to get out of the house.
It's an abundance of natural occurring vegetable steroids. And these are steroids that are not to be confused with anabolic or chemical steroids that athletes use. What they do is they act as a catalyst to speed up the activity of the friendly flora, which is the aerobic bacteria in the system. And what these bacteria then do is they come forth in greater numbers, produce up to 60,000 times more digestive enzymes. So a lot of the foods that we've eaten that have impacted themselves, or we've got all this buildup of toxins in the system, it's able to break that down into tiny little particles that the body can now eliminate, excrete.
And one of the immediate results that I saw is that it did help the patients much quicker in their recovery. That's why I made it a routine part of all of my patients, and I actually prescribe this for every single patient that comes through the door. I give them their first bottle, so they'll have it. I have them start on it right away.
That's just part of the Optimum Detox story. Learn more about this remarkable product at zenusglobalhealth.com. Hey, welcome back to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Network with Doug Whitfield. Again, that consultation is free, backed by Nature's Pharmacy. 702-540-5668. Begin your wellness journey today. There will be people there to take your call and help you through the process of getting to know our products here at Zenus Global Health. Doug, you and I have spent time off air talking about the liver, and I really wanted to get into this conversation with you because the liver in itself as an organ is really a marvel, probably one of the most important organs outside of the heart. Talk to people a little bit about the critical role that the liver performs for the human body.
Well, we refer to the liver, I refer to it in my book, as the laboratory of life. You can't live without a liver. That's the long and the short of it, because it's your chief organ of detoxification. We accumulate poison so rapidly that without the elimination of poisons in the system, you wouldn't survive more than probably minutes. And the liver is constantly at work 24/7 eliminating poisons, and it's responsible for about 40% of all the elimination of poisons in the body. I mean, you've got your spleen, you've got your kidneys, you've got your lungs, your skin. All of these play a role as well in supporting that elimination process. But it's the liver that's really challenged with the major part of the work. The more poisons or denatured food or that we're taking into the body, the more poisons we're exposed to, the more stress is put on the liver. You've heard of cirrhosis. We were just talking about it. Cirrhosis, of course, is usually brought on from an overindulgence of alcohol. Alcohol is extremely toxic to the liver, and the liver, in eliminating those poisons, can be compromised. As we were talking off air a few minutes ago, a doctor that was a major mentor in my life made a profound statement to me one day. He said, Doug, the liver is so valuable. He said that disease and sickness cannot coexist in a body with a healthy liver. So often now, it was abnormal for a baby to be born with an abnormal liver. Now, it would be abnormal for a baby to be born with a normal liver. And a lot of it's from overindulgence and excesses and abuses and, things that we shouldn't be doing. And, whether it be drugs or alcohol. And prescription medication is probably the primary culprit. I guess watching TV today, Anthony, the opioid epidemic, where we're losing, I think they said something like 40,000 people a year, all drugs. Every prescription medication compromises the integrity of the liver. They all come with side effects. The side effects are simply the body's wisdom telling to us and appealing to us that it's not in harmony with its needs. The side effects end up being much more insidious than the original challenges that we were treating.
So say I'm a patient, I've been through a number of operations, maybe I've had a back injury, I've been on a lot of medication over time. Does that person quite naturally have a detox issue that needs to be addressed?
We live in such a toxic world right now. The air has overloaded with toxins and pollutants. The water that we're drinking, our food chain is contaminated at source. All of these different things are insidiously toxic and have to be eliminated from the system, or they'll cause irreparable damage. And that always it's a liver that ends up being responsible. So the more poisons we take in, the more stress we put on the liver. What we want to do is try to exist in an environment where we can help and assist in the elimination of the poisons to take stress off of the liver. Well, secondly, taking those foods, herbs, plants, botanics that are able to help support the liver. Like, for example, great herb for supporting the liver is milk thistle. A great vegetable that supports the liver would be beets. Look, even in my book, I list a lot of the different things and how they affect, the foods that we should and could be eating. But I think, again, everything comes down to nutrition again. We should be taking in those foods or complete whole food supplements that support the body in eliminating the poisons, whether they be in our gut, whether they be in our mouth, whether they be through our lymphatics, while at the same time giving it all the tools and the food that it needs to support these organs so that they can be robust and running full out and creating an environment that's impervious to even attracting or allowing these toxins to exist in.
In your book, Life or Grave Danger, you characterize the liver as a scapegoat. First question would be, what does that mean? And then to follow up, if I want to throw my liver a lifeline, okay, what kind of protocol would Zenas recommend to restore liver function to its optimal level of balance?
The product that we make, the Optimum D-tox, is probably the purest and strongest adaptogen found in nature. It comes from, as we know, the Mojave yucca. It's a complete whole food extract. There's 50 different types of yucca around the world. Most of them have little to no value from a therapeutic perspective, but there's a handful, and 3 of them are native to the southwest of the United States, and we've worked with all of them. But the Mojave yucca is the one that we work with exclusively now because the fact that it grows in the Mojave Desert, nature has endowed it with special characteristics that allow it not just to survive, but to thrive and flourish in what's arguably the harshest environment on the planet. The Mojave Desert holds a record for the highest ever recorded temperature. And yet in the wintertime, you can go there, you'll find it's freezing cold. I've seen 18, 20 inches of snow on the ground. It's subject to wind, insect attacks, there's flash floods, there's drought. Plant might go through a year or two, not even see moisture. Yet this plant just thrives as a result because of these special constituents nature's endowed it with. Those constituents are a special group of phytosterols that help it overcome the stress, and they work wherever they are. But it works in the gut as well because the phytosterols, as we mentioned, they simply help to clean up the gut, get rid of the poisons, break them down so the body can defecate them, clean the gut wall so absorption can take place in an orderly fashion where the body can start to absorb nutrients again that the cells desperately need in order to manufacture the enzymes necessary in order to restore balance and create wonderful health in the body.
You're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime American Network with Doug Whitfield. We're talking about the liver, and yes, the consultation is free in that regard today. We're backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Get on the line, 702-540-5668. Begin your wellness journey today. Get on Optimum Detox today. Get on it now. Doug, I want to stay on the liver here. In your book, Life or Grave Danger has a fascinating chapter on the liver and liver function. So I want to take this line right from your book. No food or supplement has healing and normalizing abilities except when functioning in combination with specific enzymes. Talk to our audience, Doug, about the critical role that the liver has in the creation and storage of those vital enzymes.
What happens is the liver, it does a number of different things, but it's responsible for about 40% of all the detoxification process of poisons and putrid substances that accumulate in the body. It creates the bile and the bile acids that carry through a defecation process, but oftentimes the liver bile and bile acids become the precursors for things like colon cancer and pancreatic cancer because they get reabsorbed into the system. That's why it's critical that we have, like with the Optimum Detox, it has a natural soap that has a propensity to bind with these toxic substances, creating a molecule too large to pass back through the gut wall, so it forces the elimination. The liver, as I mentioned, plays a whole host of roles in the body. Without it, you wouldn't exist any length of time at all. Arguably, the primary organ in the body, with the exception of the heart. The liver creates enzymes to break down the fats and a lot of the food molecules so that it can eliminate what's not necessary that can be harmful to the body, while at the same time allowing the body to process those things in those molecules that are of value. One of the primary causes of disease are rancid fats. And when the liver's not functioning right, those fats end up getting stored. And when they get stored, that's why you find people that suffer from obesity are the primary leading contenders for things like diabetes and a lot of the other degenerative conditions. You know, obesity is a Schedule A disease in itself, but it also enhances the body to get other things that can be equally insidious and challenging.
We could almost take a full 360 here, Doug, and end where we began. And I think the number from your book is roughly 80% of patients with fat-saturated livers are pre-diabetic. So again, the storage of body sugars and how the body processes them really plays a key role in the health of our liver overall, further requiring that we take a look at a formula such as Optimum Detox to almost relieve this condition.
Have you ever heard of bitters?
Yeah, absolutely heard of them, yeah.
You've got sensors on your tongue, and the way that bitters work, those bitters will inspire the sensors that automatically trigger flushing from the liver. That's why people oftentimes, after they've had a big meal, you know, heavy on meat or turkey or anything like that, you know how you feel all bloated and everything, by taking bitters afterwards, it helps to flush the liver in a way that the liver can more effectively help break down that waste and eliminate that bloated feeling.
One last point about the liver, and you stress this in your chapter on the liver, and it's the role of sleep, so that the liver has, you know, the required time to rest to perform its vital functions. It's almost like it's capturing up on this backlog of unutilized or unmetabolized substances. Talk a little bit about sleep and the role it plays for good liver health.
When the body is resting and sleeping at a cellular level, it's in an alkaline environment. And what happens in an alkaline environment is all the enzymes, their function is to rebuild, restore, and prepare those organs, prepare the body for the activities of the following day. So the liver rests at night the same as other organs in the body. Your heart isn't working as hard at night when you're resting. Your liver is barely working at night, so it can relax and rest and restore and prepare itself for the following day.
Folks, you are listening to the Wellness Express with Doug Whitfield, brought to you by the great people at Zenus Global Health. Check them out. Get to the website, zenusglobalhealth.com/information, or give them a call at 702-540-5668. Start that journey to wellness, backed by Nature's Pharmacy. We're going to take a quick break, and then Dr. Tom Stone will join me for a very interesting conversation. You won't want to miss this one. He has a lot to say. This is the Wellness Express. You keep it right here.
Toxins create disease. They are everywhere. In our food. In the air we breathe. In our homes. At our places of work.
Heavy metals accumulate in our systems every day, causing numerous health problems that can seriously impact every major organ in our bodies.
Once toxic heavy metals have entered our bodies, they are stored in our organs, tissues, and bones.
We also know that metal toxicity is often derived from all kinds of environmental threats, from medications or in the course of work or play. But no matter the origin, studies now show that heavy metals in the body may be implicated to Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, behavioral problems, kidney dysfunction, epilepsy, and even paralysis.
Are you toxic? The answer is yes. We are all toxic.
So this is precisely why you should be looking at whole food formulas such as chelate as a low-risk prevention alternative. Take a moment to consider your lifestyle, to consider your exposure to heavy metal toxins at home, at your workplace, and in your everyday life. So what do you need to know about lead, aluminum, and mercury in your environment? Well, actually, it's plenty.
Our bodies can't eliminate them without help.
Toxins create disease, we all know that, but heavy metal toxins are now directly linked again to Parkinson's, MS, all forms of cancer, and a host of other degenerative and neurological disorders.
But now, you can do something about it.
And that's precisely where chelate comes in. So make it your first choice whole food supplement to remove these elements.
Start detoxing today.
Detoxify with chelate, the strongest whole food detoxifying agent for heavy metals. Take the first step in destroying this silent killer today. Hey folks, welcome back to the Wellness Express on the Airtime America Radio Network. My name is Anthony, and joining me today is a gentleman who I've gotten to know recently. His name is Dr. Tom Stone. He is a gentleman who has done so much in the realm of natural health. He's got an organization called My Children's Haven, which I do recommend you take a look at mychildrenshaven.org, doing some fabulous work there. He's got a fascinating history from both the medical field and, again, in the natural health field. Dr. Stone, pleasure to have you here on the show. How are you today?
Anthony, I am absolutely great. Thank you very much. And praying that our visit with the world here is going to be a blessing to those who are here.
Certainly is going to be a blessing. Look, you're a gentleman who's been dedicated to healing for the better part of your adult life. You started as a combat medic. Talk to us about that progression from there, from that first, dare I say, traumatic healing experience to where you are now and what brought you there.
Well, it's been a wonderful, wonderful education of life. And yes, my career did start out with 3 tours of being a medical combat corpsman in Vietnam. From there, after I got out of the service, I went to med school with dreams of being a trauma doctor. My internship at Mount Clemens General Hospital was interrupted by a call from a doctor that I met in Vietnam that was the leading orthopedic surgeon in the country at that time in research and development of artificial joints. And he contacted me and said, I'd really like to have you come and join me here at Blodgett Memorial in Grand Rapids and work with me and see if this is something that you would like to do. And he gave me the dollar amount, and I said, oh boy, let me put in my resignation here. And within 2 months, I was relocated to the western side of Michigan and started working after they approved my beard and long hair. I kind of looked weird back then, as long as everything fit under a surgical mask and that I was covered. It was about 18 months into working with Dr. Swanson that an accident befell me. I fell out of a tree after an ice storm deer hunting with Ted Nugent.
Sorry, I just can't picture you with Ted Nugent. I'm sorry for the laugh, but Ted Nugent, was one of my idols growing up, but he's taken quite the turn since those days. But Ted Nugent on a hunting trip, are you still in contact with the great Ted?
Not too frequently. During the Dr. Carson campaign, which I was the head of the Medical Coalition Committee for Dr. Carson, during his campaign, then I tried to get Ted to give us an endorsement, but he favored somebody else, and I was unsuccessful, and that was the last time I had contact with him. Ted back then, was a hero of mine too, not because of his music, but because of his love for the outdoors and for the sport of hunting, especially bow hunting. So the result of that accident on his ranch in Lansing left me paralyzed from the waist down. I was young. I had an ego. Matter of fact, I was really, really loaded with ego. I had surplus. And it was devastating to my ego that I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And therefore, back then, of course, they didn't have wheelchairs that elevated, and there was no possibility of me ever working in OR again. And so I was reduced to what I considered to be a total insult to bedside head of ureter catheterization from pediatrics to geriatrics for that very large hospital. It didn't set very well with me. I became a very bitter, angry person. And a doctor by the name of Dr. Herman Bussey's incredible soul, who was a renegade orthopedic surgeon that had gone holistic, approached me and said, "Hey, Tom, if we could get you out of that wheelchair and restore your wellness all naturally, would you be willing to make a lifelong pledge to serve humanity in holistic medicine and never prescribe a drug and never do surgery again for the rest of your life?" If it had been Satan asking me to sign on the dotted line with my ego, I would have said yes. And I did say yes. "Dr. Herman, I will put you to your challenge. Yeah, I'll do this." So he brought in another incredible soul by the name of Dr. Christopher, John R. Christopher. And between the two of them, they started mentoring me. They started making me do things that I would never do on my own. I didn't realize that plants could do everything better than what the pharmacies were giving us. Natural therapies like walking and using muscles that you don't normally use just while you're sitting in a wheelchair can make an incredible difference on reviving the neurological system, connecting nerves that they say would never be connected again, that the body can heal itself virtually and literally of anything if you give it the right energy and frequency. And that's all food is about. So from that day forward, it took about 6 months before I was walking with 2 sticks and didn't go back to the hospital or hospital work at all. Instead, I went into high school administration work. I was assistant principal for a local high school for a couple of years while my recovery continued, while I continued also my studies in naturopathy and homeopathy and holistic medicine. And as time progressed, I also progressed. I evolved. God blessed me that I developed insight for developing whole food formulas, getting away from isolate vitamins that people think actually help them when they're no different than drugs because they're produced in labs. It's not the way you find things in nature. You don't find a vitamin C tree. You don't find a calcium root that just contains only calcium. Everything comes with other plant elements and chemistries that complement each other, and whole food is strictly the way to go. And when I realized that, about 4,000 years ago, there was a prophet by the name of Daniel, and it was the very, very first. Now, see, in science, and I'm still a man of science, I respect science as long as it's duplicatable and in compliance with the laws of nature. Science can be manipulated to satisfy everyone whose financial interests are at heart of the study. So the bottom line on most studies that scientists and doctors and healers want to look at are double-blind studies. The very first documented double-blind study in the history of mankind was in the first chapter of Daniel, and it's only briefly mentioned, so people just read over it and it goes over their head. They need to go back to those two small verses and realize that when Daniel was challenged, or actually Daniel challenged the head eunuch to allow him and his three colleagues to stick strictly with the whole food diet and not eat from the king's table, the test results, the end results were that they not only were stronger, they were better looking, so it definitely did something for their appearance. They had more energy, and they were smarter. So the whole food diet, plant-based, obviously worked. So the Daniel diet has become the center of everything that I do with my chronic and terminal patients. Now, as you know, and sadly, freedom of speech, how we use words in the land of the free, the beautiful United States of America, doesn't really exist. Because on the airwaves or in a public forum, if I used the cure word, I could be subject to a huge fine, getting my business shut down, or incarceration, or worse. I know many doctors. Like you said, I've been around quite a while. And I've had the sad experience of witnessing many of my colleagues mysteriously die because they were doing things outside the box and they were using the cure word. So I don't use the cure word. A colleague of mine, very, very dear friend in Tijuana, Mexico, 6 doctorates. He's recognized as one of the world's leading natural oncologists. He and I will do forums together on occasion, and he will use the cure word. And Dr. Rogers will say, well, we've got a 70% cure rate of the most serious terminal cancers. My rebuttal to that is, Dr. Rogers, I'm glad you can say that. I'm doing the exact same things that you're doing here in Las Vegas, Nevada, right, with the same statistics, but I can't say cure. So I applaud the freedom that you have.
Well, God forbid we put a wall up between those two countries, but we can get to another very, very important point that you touch on, and it's been a recurring theme in the short duration of this show, and it's the amount of doctors that I have run into, people who were trained in some of the biggest institutions in this world, some who come from other parts of the world, doctors who finally came to the conclusion that, trading symptoms for drugs wasn't the way they were going to do business in their future, that there was something of an awakening. They either moved to the natural health arena like you have done, or they've gone somewhere in between, something described as integrated.
Correct.
Do you get the sense out there that maybe there are lots of doctors who know the truth but don't want to resist the economic penalties for having done so, that they don't want to be labeled as, renegades or outlaws? They see themselves as revolutionaries or progressives, but the language of the land, how words can be interpreted, that the perception filter out there is so strong that they're either forced underground or they're forced to ignore what they know to be the truth.
Sadly, no one really goes into medicine unless they're second or third generation doctor for the sake of the money alone. Vast majority of young men and women pursuing the healing arts, whether they're osteopathic medicine or AMA medical, is irrelevant. Their intent is to be healers. And unfortunately, the brainwashing begins almost immediately. Now we live in an age where the pharmaceuticals literally control the textbooks. Executives from the pharmaceuticals sit on all of the major medical university boards of directors. They don't get financing if the kids aren't taught their way of treating disease. And of course, treating disease with poison just further compounds the person's integrity of their wellness. Masking symptoms, but never dealing with the root cause. And that generates the revolving door of the sick care and disease management. 70% of the people in the United States of America are taking multiple drugs to treat chronic conditions that literally just a change of their living habits would correct. But they're not educated to that. Now, the doctors and nurse practitioners that are, right in the face of these patients, some of them know, and some of them do care enough to share with the patient that change their lifestyles, that they change how they eat, that they get more exercise, they get more sunshine. They study outside the box. They use this excellent tool that we're using right now simply by Googling truth. You can't hide truth from the people. You're going to get diverse information, but good Lord, pray for a little spirit of discernment and pick out information that applies to you because it's free. All you got to do is ask for it.
That's the beauty of the internet. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. I think we would all agree about that. However, if you are able to discern truth from fiction, you very quickly come to understand that whole shades of modalities that people are not exposed to that exist because largely information has been controlled. But that said, there's something also I think you get firmly behind, and it's something that has alarmed me as I've begun my education. And it links itself right back to the natural health diet, right? The Daniel diet. And it's how our agriculture, our biodiversity on this planet, the threats that are now placed before it, the long-term destruction that is literally happening in our food supply undermines everything that we will come to understand about a healthy food supply if we don't do something about it now.
You are so right. My book, Modern Foods, The Sabotage of Earth's Food Supply, co-authored by David Casper, who was one of those great heroes of education that mysteriously died shortly after the book came out. And the gentleman that wrote an incredible foreword to that book, which was as good as the book, I thought, Dr. Jonathan Bright, suffered a lot of collateral damage for contributing to that book also. He was raided and arrested and his clinic shut down in Seattle, Washington for an extended time. The point is it all goes back to the laws of nature. The Daniel diet, obviously, Monsanto wasn't there. Biotechnology wasn't there. It was all organic food. The agricultural practices back then, following the principles of the Bible, which are very, very explicit. We'll never, ever have to use a pesticide, insecticide, and everything, because if we rotate crops properly, like the scripture says, the plants will be healthy. A healthy plant, which has vibrational energy, just like we do, does not attract disease. It does not even attract insects. So a healthy body, in the same token that is organic, isn't going to attract parasites, isn't going to attract viruses, bacteria, microbial, all of the things that are forced on us in the 21st century. So Modern Foods, The Sabotage of Earth's Food Supply started a revolution of awareness that we have to break bonds with big ag business and the international corporations that feed us chemicals, calling it food. So strictly organic, non-GMO, is mandatory for the human race today if we're going to survive and regain our health. And all of the supplements that we use, and this is why I'm really, really attached at heart and mind with the founders of the Zenas Company, because they practice the same things that I do in my own product development, in the products that I make available to all my patients, that everything is whole food, not derivatives from, not isolates, but the whole food that has all of the plant chemicals and the vitamins and minerals, the amino acids, the fatty acids, the antioxidants, the proanthocyanins, all of this wonderful universe of chemistries locked into one food in a perfect matrix that the body can recognize and utilize. And we don't have to take one of those things out, isolate it, take it out, and give it to the body in concentration and trick the body into thinking that it's getting what it needs.
Folks, you're listening to Dr. Thomas Stone. He is a holistic doctor and certified natural health practitioner, has a fascinating story, has written numerous books about natural health. You know, we're talking all different things that you should really be clued in on. But doctor, before we finish today, I do want to get into My Children's Haven a bit with you, because this really is I think the work of your heart. This is something you have put together over time. You have a great number of links back to the nation of the Philippines. You're walking the talk. You're looking for solutions. You're not just looking to treat the symptoms of what's happening to that great island nation.
It all began, my late wife, who passed away a few months ago, and I both received a vision after Typhoon Yolanda literally created over 20,000 orphans in a matter of a few hours and killed hundreds of thousands of people, created over 1 million people that were homeless. So we made a pledge at that time to not just talk about it, but to do something about it. And it fits in with the agricultural side, because the Globan also experienced the loss of 10 million coconut trees, which was the main industry for that island. And that, of course, contributed to the further extreme poverty. You just don't plant a coconut tree and restore your economy or your economics in a matter of a few years. It takes a while for that tree to start producing income and food. But the agricultural side of it is extremely important. As a matter of fact, we just were blessed to bring on for our Children's Haven industry side of it, which is one of the 3 for-profit businesses that support the education and the care and the needs of children that we rescue, pregnant teenage girls and teenage unwed mothers that are homeless. We give them housing. We give them good organic nutrition. We provide the psychological counseling for them, because they've been in the streets most of their lives and they've suffered abuses that you just don't even want to talk about because they're so horrid. And so we provide care for their mental wellness, as well as providing care and nutrition for the mothers and the babies in the womb, as well as the babies that the unwed mothers have.
Right.
It's taking the very same approach that I have done over the years with treating the human body to get well, because the body knows how to get well. We just need to re-educate it. We don't treat symptoms. We have to eliminate the root cause. If you have pain, there's a root cause to all pain. It's called inflammation. Find out what is causing the inflammatory reaction in the body that's stimulating the pain, which is simply a signal to tell you something is amiss. Well, the same thing applies in the Philippines and Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and Thailand and India, of why there is such a high population of homeless, abandoned, discarded children that God loves. And we won't get into the politics of it, because that's another thing. But some governments like having people dumbed down to the point where they stay in the bondage of poverty so that they never have power. And if we can correct that because just like in Yolanda, and our mission is not directly in Yolanda. We were there for 6 months, but we moved to a safer haven. God blessed us with the beautiful, beautiful property in Bico. There we are able to address the root cause of the poverty, and that is to educate the people, give them an opportunity to earn a living, and all of the food and nutritional supplements, whole food nutritional supplements that they produce under Children's Haven Industries is a economic boom to the people, because we pay each one of those girls that we rescue twice the minimum wage while they're learning. And that's paid daily, and that's paid in U.S. dollars. It's a win-win situation. We're blessing the children. We're rescuing children. And of course, we want to see them, as many of those children as possible, having their dreams come true of getting adopted by American Christian families, husband and wife, man and woman. And we really, that is the ultimate goal for the babies. The teenage pregnant girls in the Philippines leads in the world in preteen and teenage pregnancy. The first teenage unwed mother that we rescued, the very first day that we started into Globin, was only 14. As a matter of fact, it was her 14th birthday that day. So that means that her 4-month-old baby, born when she was 13, and she conceived that baby when she was only 12. That is so common. These are babies having babies. And those are the babies that get abandoned or raised in the streets. They're very, very street smart when we rescue them. That's why we need the psychologists, pastoral counseling, because these kids are survivors. They've learned the laws of the streets, where getting abused is just part of the learning process, and that's not the way that it's intended for those young, informative minds and spirits. So we're passionate about our work, and we're seeing the benefits that we're, creating change. And it all goes back to the education part. So the agricultural organic practices and things that we do there on the campus spreads all throughout the Philippines. It is our vision that the Philippines eventually will have organic foods in their stores like we have here. The Philippines has the highest, they're being used as an experiment, a grotesque experiment on the human race. They have the highest amount of Monsanto genetically modified foods of any country in the world. And it started with their then former or lady president making a pact, a deal with Hillary Clinton and Bill Gates and the World Health Organization, the United Nations, to replace all of their heirloom rice with genetically modified rice, Monsanto's, of course, contaminate those beautiful tropical South Pacific islands with those poisons, which consequently the water has nowhere else to go because everything's surrounded on all four sides by water to contaminate the ocean and the marine life. So it's that domino evil effect that has been used on these beautiful people since the end of World War II. And prior to World War II, this civilization of people had very few documentable cases of heart disease, diabetes, blood pressure. It was so rare to find someone that was obese, let alone clinically obese. And today, they lead in heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Beautiful men and women there, putting on, some body mass that's not healthy muscle mass, but fat because of their American diet and all of the GMOs. So they've got the corn and the rice. Now, this is interesting that the corn and the rice is genetically modified with human genes. So in the same time that they're feeding these people, and this is where the United Nations and Bill Gates come in, the same time that they're feeding these people all of these GMO foods, they're ultimately working towards their goal of population control. Because like when the Pope was there, as he was leaving in disgust, he said to his colleagues as they boarded the plane, my God, these people breed like rabbits. Well, they do. What else you got to do in a monsoon season when you don't have to go to work? All you got to do is just lay in your hut, right?
Listen, Dr. Stone, both you and your organization really need to be commended for all the fine work you're doing in the Philippines. Folks, when you get a chance, take a look at this website at mychildrenshaven.org. Get all the information, all the fine work that's being done there, and do make a donation if you could. Please make that a priority today. I only wish we had more time to get underneath the details and shine a bit more light on your project, Dr. Stone. I know we've only scratched the surface, so for now, I hope we can agree to talk again real soon. Thank you so much for your time today. I think you're a fascinating guy. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, and God bless you and all of the audience.
Many thanks to you for listening in at home. You can also stay in touch with the Wellness Express by following us at facebook.com/ZenusHQ. Check us out on Twitter at Zenus Global for all the updates and more. Remember, the greatest gift you can give your friends, your loved ones, is the lessons we share about the healing powers found in our bodies. So send your friends, family, and colleagues a link to one of our shows and let their journeys begin. This has been the Wellness Express. The consultation's free, direct from Nature's Pharmacy. We'll be back again next week, and please, in the meantime, stay well.